Imagine being trapped in complete darkness, with death slowly and relentlessly closing in above you. The story begins with the narration of an unknown prisoner, a man who, in the height of ignorance and anxiety, has been arrested during the Spanish Inquisition. He is unaware of the reason for his arrest and does not even know who comprises the court that will decide his fate or by what criteria they issue their judgment. This initial ambiguity casts a heavy atmosphere of fear, disorientation, and the anticipation of death over his mind, a state that the author skillfully conveys to the reader from the very beginning. This total ignorance spreads like a veil of darkness over the entire story, making the prisoner's sense of helplessness a tangible and unsettling experience for the reader. The prisoner is trapped in a cell that seems endless. Complete darkness, deadly silence, and invisible walls whose confines can only be discerned through accidental contact. Gradually, he realizes that a hidden threat lies beneath his feet, a danger that can only be revealed through careful exploration and tactile curiosity. Soon, he confronts a new terror, a deep pit at the center of the cell, into which a fall would mean certain death. His fear arises not only from the pit's depth, but from its unknown nature, the inability to gauge its size, width, or depth. This element of the unknown forms a crucial part of the story's power, as it places the reader exactly in the protagonist's position, where each misstep could lead to a silent and permanent fall. While the prisoner is still grappling with the fear of the pit, a new stage of mental and physical torture begins. He notices the presence of a massive pendulum with a deadly blade above his head, a pendulum that descends slowly, steadily, and relentlessly, creating a tangible and immediate threat. Each movement of the blade produces a metallic, drawn-out sound, echoing like the heartbeat of death within the cell. The prisoner sees, with mounting horror, the distance between the blade and his body shrinking with every moment, creating a deep and consuming anxiety. Poe, in this section, describes the pendulum's slow movement, the cold gleam of the blade, and the rhythmic yet terrifying sound of its swings, immersing the reader in a state of suspense and expectation, as if their own breath synchronizes with the blade's motion and time itself slows down. But this is not the only threat. The walls of the cell gradually begin to move, iron walls heating the space as they advance, making the prison increasingly suffocating. The floor grows hotter, so that the prisoner feels he might step onto scorching heat at any moment. At this stage, psychological and physical pressure reaches its peak. The pit to avoid, the pendulum approaching steadily, the walls closing in, and the scorching floor, all combine into a crushing ordeal. Here, the story showcases Poe's mastery in creating gradual horror, not through sudden shocks, but through the slow approach of death. To survive, the prisoner must act intelligently and boldly. Using minimal resources and precise timing, he manages to free himself from the pendulum and temporarily avoid the various deaths planned for him. Yet he remains trapped between the walls and the pit, with death following closely. Just when it seems that the inevitable end has arrived and no escape remains, Spanish forces intervene and rescue him. This sudden ending, though unexpected, brings a powerful sense of relief, as if the reader's held breath is released at once. Yet the harrowing experience of surviving a slow death lingers in the mind of both the narrator and the reader, an experience that shows that even rescue cannot entirely erase the imprint of fear. Overall, the story is more than a chronicle of a single individual. It presents a profound depiction of human fear, a fear that arises not from the direct presence of death, but from anticipation, ignorance, ambiguity, and gradual threats. Edgar Allan Poe, through sensory details such as the pendulum's steady metallic sound, the suffocating heat of the walls, the cell's absolute darkness, and the terrifying pit, immerses the reader in a near-real experience of horror. The story demonstrates that the most terrifying fears are those that lie in wait, shapeless and unnamed, keeping the victim in suspense for an inevitable event. Poe proves that the power of terror lies in the unknown, in awaiting a moment that is certain to come, but whose timing and form cannot be predicted. Now that the story is over, let's dive into its analysis. The prisoner's character and the combination of fear, self-control, and survival instinct. His psychological reactions, from initial fear to anticipatory anxiety. Key symbols: the pit, the pendulum, the walls, and the hot floor. Psychological messages and a summary of character analysis. If you're interested in classic literature and timeless works of the world, subscribe so you don't miss our next videos. Also, the link to summaries and analyses of other Edgar Allan Poe stories is in the description. If you're interested, be sure to check it out. 1. The prisoner's character. The protagonist is an unknown prisoner who knows neither the reason for his arrest nor the court that will decide his fate. This complete ambiguity forms the core of his psychological experience. His defining traits are helplessness and anxiety arising from a lack of control. The inability to predict his fate generates deep anxiety, known in psychology as anxiety stemming from the unknown. Yet the prisoner maintains the ability to focus, analyze the situation, and regulate his emotions. He gauges the pendulum's movement, observes the wall's motion, and carefully and courageously finds a way to avoid a slow death, demonstrating cognitive capability and self-control. His survival instinct guides him. Even in the face of imminent death, he does not surrender and, through creativity and decision-making, finds a way to survive. This highlights that humans, under extreme threat, can display vital and creative responses. 2. Psychological reactions. The prisoner's psychological reactions intensify gradually. Initially, fear of the darkness and total silence overwhelms him, preparing him for subsequent threats. Upon seeing the pendulum, he enters a stage of anticipatory anxiety, a fear arising from the expectation of danger that grows moment by moment. When the walls move and the floor heats, the fear of certain death and loss of control peaks. At this point, the threat is not only imminent, but seemingly inescapable. These reactions reflect natural human responses to unavoidable threats. 3. Symbolic analysis. Poe employs symbols to represent the prisoner's fear and psychological state instead of direct description. The pit, sudden and unknown death, an unpredictable threat. The pendulum, the passage of time and inevitability of death. Its slow but steady movement heightens anxiety. The moving walls and hot floor. Environmental pressure and physical threat. Walls symbolize imprisonment. The floor embodies immediate bodily danger. Rescue forces, symbol of hope, chance, or external intervention. A reminder that even in dire circumstances, salvation is possible. 4. Psychological message. True fear arises from anticipation and the unknown, not from the event itself. The prisoner exemplifies the human mind's capacity for adaptation and creativity under extreme conditions. The pendulum and moving walls illustrate precisely how time and expectation shape anxiety, a psychological trap in which the mind is slowly ensnared. 5. Conclusion. Character study. The prisoner embodies a mixture of intense fear, rationality, self-restraint, and survival instinct. He demonstrates that humans facing extreme threat can experience both psychological collapse and remarkable creativity and resilience. This story is not merely a horror tale, but a psychological study of human reactions to the unknown, gradual threats, and unavoidable limitations. Poe illustrates how death, fear, and hope can simultaneously shape the human mind, and survival often hinges on the narrow boundary between terror and awareness.